Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. This week I am kind of featuring this Froggy Valentines card to continue on this Froggy card series I sort of unintentionally made going on my channel. So this time we are doing a Valentine's version. I have a Halloween version as well as two other Christmas Froggy cards on my channel. I have a playlist linked below if you want to watch those, if you are a frog enthusiast like me. But this time I decided to go ahead and kind of build a scene around these frogs for Valentine's Day. And this scene, they are kind of, making Valentines. I am making a Valentine of frogs making Valentines. That is what's going on here. So I stamped out my images onto some cardstock using my little Misty here. And I used Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink for the majority of my images. But for this tree stump, I did use the Lawn Fawn Crunchy Leaf ink just because it'd look weird if the tree stump was black. And I'm coloring that in with my Copics. So here I'm using E33, E31, and E30, and I am coloring the entirety of the stump. I'm also taking those colors and coloring my little mushroom stems. Now, I did use a different plethora of stamp sets, so they are all in the description if you want to go check them out. But I did use the Toadally Awesome stamp set, Don't Worry Be Hoppy, Say What Spring Critters. I just used the frog images from those sets, as well as the Love Letter stamp and die set, How You Been Conversation Heart add-on, and the Forest Feast stamp set. So quite a lot here, but Lawn Fawn's aesthetic and designs all really coincide together, and they allow you to use everything together. So for my mushrooms here, I am using R35 and R39, and I have two different mushrooms here that I will be using as little kind of seats for my small frogs. So with one I did the spots red, and the other one I did the other part besides the spots red, if that makes any sense. They are kind of the inverse of one another. So, and then I also used this pink combination, which is RV06, 04, and 01, I believe. And yeah, I just made sure I got a good blend with those. And really, with this card, I did experiment with a whole bunch of different kind of red and pink combinations with my Copics, and it was a good experiment. I find they can be some of the hardest colors to blend, so I hope this video kind of helps you discover new combinations as well when it comes to coloring and stuff. I also used a W5 and W3 here for some of these details on this calligraphy pen and ink bottle. I also have some of these hearts that are stamped out of Bubblegum Lawn Fawn ink as well as Lawn Fawn Lobster ink, and I'm just coloring those. They are the same heart stamps from the Conversation Heart add-on stamp set, but I just kind of did them in a pink color instead of a black color, just to add some more interest between my Valentines on this card. I just felt like it'd be an interesting element to have. So for the coloring for this card, the majority of the elements are in shades of pink and purple. So for that, I just kind of sticked with four kind of key color combinations with my Valentines and stuff that I'm coloring here. So that is R22, R20, and R12 for one combination. For the second, it is RV09, R29, and RV29. I know. And for the third combination, it is RV13, RV14, and RV21. And for my last combination, which is kind of a red combination here, it was R39, R35, and R32. So obviously you don't have to do the same combinations as me, of course, but I thought that would be kind of helpful in case maybe you're struggling with trying to get variation in this card, because that was one of the few things I did struggle with, was trying not to make it look all the same. I also think purples and blues make really good Valentine's colors as well. They're maybe not the most traditional, but I think they work really well. So it's completely up to you. Do whatever color palette you think is right, whatever you got going, and it'll be good. So with coloring this Valentine stack, I did try to make sure that Valentines I had touching together weren't colored with the same combination, and that was about it. I just kind of colored at random, just hoping that I would not mess it up. And here I am, I'm taking W7 and W9, and I'm coloring my ink bottle as well as the calligraphy pen handle thingy, as well as some W000 for the little label on the ink bottle, just so it isn't a stark white. And for my little baby frog dudes, I am coloring them with YG11 and YG03. And I believe the YG03 was my darker shade here. and I am just adding some shading as a flat wash, and then I'm going to go in and add some stippling texture to make them look like little froggy dudes. Very fitting. And then for my big frog here, I am using YG17, YG25, and YG23. So moving on to the background, here I have this white rectangle cut using the stitched scalloped rectangle frame dies from Fawn. It is the largest rectangle frame die out of the stack there. And I am just adding some of this pink color to the sky. Once again, very fitting for the Valentine's season. So I am starting off about halfway down the bottom using Spun Sugar Distress Oxide ink, and then I'm blending that up into some Worn Lipstick Distress Oxide ink. And once I get that nice and blended, I will work on the grass, and I will be using some stenciling techniques. Once again, just trying to keep it a little bit different, trying to show some different techniques and stuff for this video. So here I have Lucky Clover and Pine Needles Oxide inks, and I'm going to stick down my little card base here using some tape onto my mat so it doesn't shift around so much when I am trying to do my stenciling, because when it moves it can create a big mess and we don't want that happening. So I'm trying to reduce the collateral damage, if you will. So for the stenciling of the little grass at the bottom of this card panel, I am using these Grassy Hillside stencils from Fawn. So I'm just picking the one that I like the most, and I am going to just hold that down. I would recommend taping it if you are doing this. I just wasn't thinking while doing this, and I regretted it later when I was like, oh my gosh, this isn't taped. So anyways, besides the point, I am taking some Pine Needles ink, and I am applying it at its thickest or most opaque, darkest color near the top of my grass. And I'm going to do my best to kind of blend that out down towards the bottom, trying to create a nice little ombre effect, if you will. And then I'm layering my second Grassy Hillside stencil on top of that, and I'm going to be using Lucky Clover ink, and I'm going to be blending that using the darkest at the top, blending it out to a lighter color at the bottom, just trying to get some variation going on here. So now that my card base has all been ink blended and stuff, I decided to add a little bit more interest to it using some water splatter. So I am taking some clean water and a clean paintbrush, and I'm just going to be flicking on some water onto my background and then dabbing that off with some paper towel to kind of remove some of the ink from the background and add more interest. I think it looks cool. I do it in almost every video, so you know the drill by now if you're not new here. Next, I am taking this Love is in the Air stencil from My Favorite Things, as well as some picked raspberry ink, and I am just applying that to the sky portion of my little card base here, just adding some little hearts, make it more Valentine's themed. And yeah, I'm just going all over my background with that, and I'm trying to kind of once again create an ombre effect where my hearts will be the darkest at the top and kind of blending that downwards into a lighter pink. And now we're going to start the main assembly of these elements that are going on my card. So here I am taking my two little froggy dudes and I'm gluing them on top of these little mushrooms. I tried to kind of stick them closer to the top to show off like the little spots here. I tried not to cover them up so much. But yeah, I'm just gluing them down with some liquid glue, and then I'm holding that flat with an acrylic block until it's dried. Once again, just adding more detail to my little scene here, I am taking some of these Valentine hearts that I will have the frogs kind of, calligraphying on, if that's the word for it, writing on. So I'm taking these little sentiments from the Love Letter stamp set that are in cursive, as well as some Fawn jet black ink, and I'm just stamping them onto my little Valentines for my little froggies. Alright, so now this is the main assembly for the majority of the card. So I am taking these two little stacks of Valentines and I am using tape runner to kind of glue them in the middle-ish of my card. I try to have them sort of at an angle at each other, forming the slightest maybe triangle in the middle, just so that they're not super flat and square together. I tried to make it look like a natural forming mound of Valentines that these frogs are making. And I'm also taking some more of these spare little hearts I had colored earlier, and I'm just gluing them down with some liquid glue here, and I'm just placing them wherever, trying to kind of make a more natural pile of Valentines, I guess, just so it looks a little less square. Next, I am just adding this stump element here for reference, and then I'm going to glue my biggest Froggy in the middle here, just to try to kind of cover up that seam between these two piles, but also just to have him in the center, just kind of as the central focus. And then with the two frogs on the side, you know, there's 3 frogs, it reads nice to the eye. So that's kind of what I was going for. Once my frog is glued with the liquid adhesive, I am taking some foam tape, and I'm going to glue down my little stump here. Once again, just trying to cover up the bottom seams of these little Valentine piles, just so that it doesn't look so obvious that these are 2 different, or the same stamped image, just twice. And then I'm also taking these thin foam squares, and I'm placing them on the back of my little froggies, on their little mushrooms, and I'm gonna stick those on either side of this little stump table. So to finish up this scene here, I am just taking some of these smaller elements I had cut and colored earlier. So these are the little calligraphy pens, the ink bottles, and the little Valentines I had stamped and decorated. And I'm just laying them out on this table, trying to kind of find a flow that I like the most, a setting that I like the most and I'm happy with, because I always change my mind. And it's just better for me to do this prior to gluing everything down, because once glue's everywhere, it's kind of hard to change your mind. So I would recommend laying things out before you like it. You can of course do whatever you want with this, really. You can have as many Valentines, as many, you know, quills as you want. So I found something I was happy with, and then I glued it down using liquid glue. Just to add some more details, this is totally optional, there are some little ink splatter kind of stamps in this love letter stamp set, so I am taking some jet black ink from Fawn once again, and I am just adding splatters all over my little froggies' faces, you know, all over the table. I would assume if frogs actually made Valentines, they wouldn't be the cleanest. So I decided to kind of rough them up a little bit, add some interest. So I'm taking both the big splatters stamp and the smaller one, and I am just kind of adding them wherever I see fit. If you don't like the look of this, of course you don't have to do it. You could also do this in different colored inks, but I thought black would show up the best and look the best in my opinion, so yeah. So to finish off my little card base here, I decided not to go with a sentiment on a banner for once. Go me. I'm shaking it up a little bit here, folks. Watch out. So I took some black cardstock and I cut the bee, the Scripty bee and the Scripty mine Fawn dies out of it, and I am gluing them out here. I made sure to kind of keep the little heart for the tittle of the eye. And, you know, not lose that because that's important. And I think it was a good choice. I really like the black because it does stand out so much, but it also does match the color palette I tried to kind of pick for this card. So yeah, of course you can do whatever you feel fit for this, but yeah. So next I am taking this card base I had cut and scored off camera. It is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I am going to be stamping out a little sentiment on the inside, just so, you know, it really brings the whole card together. So for my little sentiment on the inside here, I am taking the Don't Worry Be Hoppy stamp set, as well as the little jar add-on, conversation heart add-on stamp set, so that my sentiment will read, you know, hopping by to say, you're unforgettable, happy Valentine's Day. And I'm going to take my little stamps here, line them up as best as I can in the center of my card. You can feel free to use a grid for this and make sure that it's perfectly center, but I just tried my best to eyeball it because I'm a little bit lazy when it comes to things like this. And once I'm happy with it, I'm going to be stamping that out in the center with some Lawn Fawn Lobster ink. So to finish off this card, I went over my images with some gel pens that I always use in these videos. So if you want to see that, you know, I use them in every video, check out one of those. And then I'm gluing down my little card panel onto my card base with my ATG gun. And that's about it for this card. So if you liked my video, subscribe, like the video, comment, share this with your friends. It all helps the channel. I also have an Instagram down below if you want to follow me there and see what I'm up to. And thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day.